from the time that they pronounced me dead was a good 45 minutes.
They cut my clothes and then they paddled my heart because my heart had stopped. And I could see people screaming and crying, but I didn't realize that was actually my physical body because I was somewhere else.
The only thing that I could feel, if you can imagine, absolute love and peace. There wasn't anything else to be felt.
I was greeted by people I had known in the past.
I'm back home again.
Incredibly safe and felt at home.
Welcome to Round Trip Death, everybody, and welcome to Sharon Kumara. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Eric. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Oh, that's so nice of you. I want to hear about Oregon. I know you live out there, and for people that haven't been there, man, is it beautiful.
It is. It's gorgeous. We have pretty much everything you could ask for, except for the warm water on the coast. But we have the coast, we have the mountains, we have the rivers, lakes, beautiful forests, and the sand, of course, at the beach. It takes a little while to get used to the rain. I came back home. I was born and raised in Oregon till I was about 13, and then because of family divorce and everything like that, parents' divorce, I moved around the South with my parents and moved back home about 18 years ago now. Yeah, I love it.
Welcome back to the West.
Yeah.
It's a good place to be. So we're going to go clear back. You've had two near-death experiences. The first one as a child, and it's kind of interesting that you didn't remember this until after your second one. Can you explain that just a little bit? Because some people are going to go, oh, sure, gee, if you don't remember it, is it even real? But I'll remind listeners, we've had a lot of people on the show that some didn't remember their experience for 3 days, for 3 years. There are things that can bring it back. So tell us a little bit about, you don't have to get into all the details, but tell us a little about the process that happened.
Sure. Yeah, I thought the same thing. As an adult, I didn't remember most of my childhood anyway. And I always thought that was strange. Why is it I don't remember very much about, being a kid? And my parents divorced when my sister and I were young. And there was a lot of moving around and things like that. And I remembered a little bit of that, but not much. We didn't live with either one of our parents there for a little while. We lived with my grandparents, and which is where a lot of things happened. And so after my near-death experience in 2001, the head injury, I ended up remembering that a little bit later after going into deep meditation. It was the beginning of my awakening, or what my guides call my quickening, where I woke up to my soul, to who I really am, and started having memories of my childhood. And that's how I remembered the experience as a childhood, the near-death experience in my childhood. And there's no one that can tell me it wasn't real, because as I was going through these memories, because they just started happening for me sometimes spontaneously, where I'd have to go into my room and sit with it, because I remembered abuse as a child. That's why it was covered up and why it was repressed. And so the near-death experience when I was a child was during an experience where I was beat. And I felt the feeling of it was so peaceful and so full of love and peace. When I left my body, there isn't anyone that could tell me I was making that up, because I didn't understand what that would be like as an adult, even in my life.
I believe you. I wasn't trying to.
Oh, I know.
I wasn't trying to give you a hard time, but it is interesting that some of these memories can come flooding back later. And I understand why, with the trauma, that you repressed it for such a long time. We're going to be focusing on your second NDE. Mm-hmm. That's the most, I hate to say it's the most profound, but that's the one where there's a lot more detail. Was there anything that you remember seeing or doing or feeling in your first one that you would like to share?
Sure. In the first one, when I left my body, I was in what I understand now is what I've heard people call the void. I didn't understand it at the time because it was a darkness, but it wasn't dark like we understand darkness. It was a nothingness, but more than it was a supportive nothingness, a nothingness where everything, I was there in a state of being able to expand and contract, where I remembered myself as the little girl that I was, and also as the universe. It's difficult to describe, but as I'm floating in this nothingness and everythingness of what I've heard called the void, and enjoying that, I don't know for how long, is when I was met by the same being that met me in 2001, who we know, Jesus. And I saw the light portal open up, and he approached me and told me that that I didn't have to go back, which was very different in 2001, where he told me it wasn't my time. But as a little girl, I was 9 years old, he told me I didn't have to go back. And I told him that I wanted to finish my job. I had that awareness. I didn't say job, I just told him I need to finish. I'm not finished. I just started basically, and I needed to finish. And he asked me, "Are you sure?" And I said yes. And so that's when I was brought back to my body. Yeah. In 2001, it was very different.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting how mature a 9-year-old can be in that kind of a setting?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you probably weren't that mature, in the toy store or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Let's fast forward to 2001. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh.
That's all right. You can laugh.
It strikes me as so funny. I've talked to a few people lately who had their NDEs after being hit by cars or trucks. And I'm going to just spill some of the beans first before you get to it. But Sharon fell out of the back of a bus and was run over by a trailer. Oh my gosh. Now that I've stolen your thunder, tell us what was going on. Where were you? How did this all happen?
Okay. I was living in San Antonio, Texas. I was in my early 40s at the time, and we went, my girlfriends and I decided to go inner tubing down Guadalupe River in New Braunfels, Texas. It was for my friend's birthday, and we had a really good day on the river, and we had been there quite a few times already. We enjoyed doing it. And when we got on the shuttle bus, for the shuttle bus to take us back to our cars so that we could go home for the day. It was around 5:00. I was the first in our group. There was 5 of us. I was the first in the group to get on the bus when the shuttle bus pulled up, and it was pulling a trailer with all of our ice chests and our inner tubes and everything. And it was one of those little school buses. When I got on the bus, I saw that it was already full of people, and it doesn't hold that many. It holds 13, I think, is the maximum occupancy, which includes the driver. And I turned around to get back off, but there was a bunch of people behind me that wanted to get on. So I ended up getting on. And I thought, well, it's only a couple miles. I guess I'll go ahead and get on. So I was the first one on. And people also were on the bus saying, "Come on, get on, come stand back here in the aisle." So I did. And I was the first of our group to get on. And I was in the back of the bus, where the emergency door exit, that door was behind my back. And as he was driving down the road, it was a 4 on the floor kind of thing, one of those buses where it's manual gear, and he was shifting through gears, which was jerking us back and forth. And at one point, as he's shifting gears, moving away from a signal light, it jerked us so hard that I was thrown up against the back door, and I fell out of the back of the bus at that point.
So this door just flew open all of a sudden when you hit it? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it just flew open.
Man.
And I remember thinking everything just kind of was in slow motion. How people say time stopped kind of thing. And it did. It was in slow motion. I remember thinking, I can't believe I'm falling out of this bus. Am I really falling out of this bus?
Yeah, it doesn't happen every day.
No.
And it's funny how our brain tries to process so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
This is a split-second thing happening to you.
Yeah, totally. And so I bounced off the trailer hitch on my back onto the pavement underneath the trailer, and I bounced again. I remember all the bounces. I bounced again onto my side, and at that point, my head was right in line with the wheel of the trailer. And I knew in my mind that I was going to get run over because I yelled in my head, just as loud as could be, "Stop, you're killing me." And at that point is when the tire ran over my head. The back tire ran over my head. And that's when I popped out of my body.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Do you have any idea how far on the bus went before they realized and stopped and got you help?
It was about a block or two. My friends told me afterwards that they were yelling at him, and there was people talking and, and everything like that.
Yeah, chaos.
Yeah, and the people in the back knew I had fallen out, like my friend that was standing in front of me. And it's a good thing I didn't grab her because my hands went out right away to try to grab something. And she was 5 months pregnant. It's a good thing I didn't grab her and take her with me. People were yelling at him to stop, and he finally did. It was about a block or two, so it wasn't too far.
And we'll come back before we're done and talk about the physical injuries and some of your recovery, if that's okay.
Sure.
But you popped out of your body immediately, you said. So tell me what happened next.
Okay. So I'm floating above my body, looked to be maybe 20 feet or something like that, looking down, and I see my body in the road. And I'm thinking, I recognize this body as my body, but I don't feel any attachment to it. I don't feel any pain. I feel peace. I feel that type of feeling. Okay, well, that's my body. I know in my mind that I had died. I knew that what I was yelling about or what I thought was going to happen had happened, because I knew that when that wheel was going to run over my head, I was going to die. And so I knew that I had died again, because I knew at that moment in time, that point, that I had done this many times before. And so I didn't have I wasn't panicked anymore. I didn't feel any pain, didn't feel any panic, any anxiety. What I was thinking was I felt bad for my friends because we had a really good day. And so I was lamenting that. We had such a good day. And here I go. And I was thinking, here I go and die on them. That's really going to be a bummer.
You just ruined their day. How dare you?
I know, right? It's going to be a big bummer for them. My friend's not going to want to celebrate her birthday and all that and everything, And so I was thinking about that and felt bad. And also then my thoughts went to, and I saw this commuter bus coming toward my body. And I thought, I hope that bus doesn't run over my body, because that would make a big mess. And so these thoughts were going through my head, and I thought about my partner at the time, and I was brought to him, and I just knew that he would be okay. He'd grieved for a while, but he would be okay. And then I thought about my sister, who I was very close and still very close to, and my thoughts went to her, and I knew that she would grieve badly, but she would be all right too. She has her family, she has kids and has her family and her husband. And then I thought about my mom, who I was really close to, and she lived down the road from me, and I kind of took care of her. And when I thought about my mom, I felt a presence behind me. And my stepfather, who had passed in 3 years earlier, who I was really close to, was a big catalyst for me with my spiritual progress. I was raised Catholic, and I was not a very good Catholic. My parents weren't good Catholics. But I believed in higher power. I believed in a God, not the judgmental God or anything like that. I didn't want to go to church. I was not. When my grandmother used to make us go to church, when we lived with my grandmother, I would fight her. I feel bad now. I make her chase me around the house to get, because we went every day except Saturday. So I didn't have a close relationship with Jesus or anything like that. I just knew that I probably had somebody watching out for me, because I probably should have died before that many times, because I was a partier. That was my life. I kept down a job. I had a good job and everything like that. But, I just kind of was doing that type of thing. My stepfather, I turned around, took my attention off of the scene and saw my stepfather, who I missed pretty badly because we were really close. And he told me telepathically that it wasn't my time. And I was kind of confused, and I told him that I wanted to stay. And at that point, I noticed a portal opening up to my right. Oh, he mentioned something about my mom, and telepathically was sending me information about my mom that that she needed me. I was going to help her transition, those types of things. And we had a conversation about that. And then the portal starts opening.
Before you move on,
Mhm.
do you mind if I ask, were you feeling your stepfather, or did you actually see him? And if so, can you describe him, what he was wearing, anything like that? I'd love more detail.
Sure. Yes, I saw him. He was there with me, and he looked like himself, except for he was younger and looked a lot healthier. He was sick when he passed. He had lung disease, but he was wearing these glasses, the horn rim glasses, the black framed glasses. And I used to make fun of him when I was a kid, when I was younger, because he would wear them when they weren't cool. And so, so I would say, Dad, please, can you wear some wire rim glasses? You look like a dork. And so when he shows himself to me in spirit, he's wearing those glasses. That's his signature. He looked like that. He's got that sense of humor. So that's what he looked like. Yeah, he had similar clothes to what he wears here, and slacks and like a tunic shirt.
So not the white toga robes or anything like that.
No, he wasn't wearing that.
I don't get why he was wearing glasses. Was that just so you could identify him, or do you think he actually needed them to see?
No, he didn't need them to see. It was our joke.
Gotcha.
It was his communication to me. Because I was already communicating with him in ways after he passed. I started connecting and seeing him in the spirit world before my NDE, a little while before.
Okay.
Because he died in 98.
Are you seeing anybody else or just him?
At that point, I was only seeing him.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned this portal opens up. What was that like? Was it like a big cave? What was it like?
It was a circular portal. I wouldn't call it I guess you could call it a cave, but I don't see the end of it. But I see people in it, and it was like a blue-gray. It wasn't full of light, but I could see people in it, and I knew that they were my ancestors. I recognized my grandparents. I recognized some other people that I knew that had passed from this life, my ancestors. And there were ancestors in there that I wouldn't have recognized. I didn't recognize from this life, but I knew that were my ancestors. And they were inside that portal. And they weren't smiling and welcoming me home. They just had kind of a deadpan look on their face, but they were there. And then I started realizing, okay, well, this doesn't look like a welcome home committee, right? And so as that's going on, I'm feeling drawn toward the portal, and another portal opens up beyond this portal. And it's bright like the sun, yellow, white, or golden white like the sun. And that starts expanding, much larger than this other portal that I see. And as that expands, I'm drawn to that portal. And within, I don't know how to construct time there compared to here, other than, maybe a few seconds or something like that. I see a figure moving out of that portal very quickly, moving toward me, and it's a male in white robes. And I recognize him as Jesus, who I call Yeshua. And he's moving very quickly toward me. And as I recognize him, I realize that I missed him terribly, and I flew to him. I just flew to him.
That is really cool. What, were you able to embrace him?
Yes.
Spend time?
Yes. I was able to embrace him. And we had an exchange. We had a telepathic exchange where within that exchange, he tells me it's not my time. And I tell him I want to stay with him. And this is thought transference. What I remember is completely without question, are his eyes and his laugh, his chuckle. And he laughs when I tell him I want to stay with you. And it's more of a, I understand kind of chuckle, kind of laugh, that type of thing. And his eyes it was like looking at the universe. in his eyes. And yeah, it's hard to describe.
Try.
They were blue, okay? But a blue, like we the colors are not like we understand blue. They were a deep blue. And I see stars, I see light and love and a depth that I realize I'm seeing my soul too. He's reflecting me back into his eyes. And so there's an exchange there. As he's holding me, he lifts my chin up so I can see his face. And that's when I see him and his face and his eyes. And while we're exchanging that, I am engulfed in light. At that point, I'm engulfed in light and love, and any of my thoughts of worries, thoughts of not wanting to return, thoughts of missing him, anything I would feel guilty about, any pains, anything was washed away, was cleansed in that light. And I was just one big smile, this huge smile. I had become part of him. He was a part of me. We were just one fully encompassing smile.
And I know you might not be able to explain it anymore, but if possible, explain this engulfed in light and love. For those of us who haven't had it, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I guess say you're immersed in a water bath, and you become you are the water. The water is flowing through you, and all your cells are filled with love. Everything, the light is tangible, it's intelligent. You are filled and surrounded with pure love. And I just remember saying, you're not thinking, you're just feeling. You feel completely surrounded, completely supported, completely loved beyond what we could ever imagine.
That is awesome. Thank you for going through that. I know that wasn't easy. Is there a next? What happened after that?
Yes. So again, I don't know how long we were in that space. And I do feel that happened to help me heal, to help my body heal, bringing back that light. At one point, I hear his voice again, pulling me back to the awareness as me, as Sharon. And he asked me if I would like to go on a journey with him.
Yeah.
Right?
You didn't have to think very long, did you?
Yeah, but I guess they need our permission. And I'm like, sure. And so he puts his hand out. I take his hand. And as soon as I put my hand in his, which, by the way, before I even go on to that, I felt with my hand in his, I felt his hand was just so intense. I could feel every line in my hand, every crack and crevice, like you feel a hand. Afterwards, I'm thinking, it's like we have gloves on here over our senses, the sense of touch and everything we have. It's like we're wearing a big glove, a barrier to the intenseness of our senses that we have in the higher planes. And so I was just intently aware of my hand in his and how his hand felt in mine. And then in an instant, we're flying through the cosmos. And I was saying, or the cosmos is flying through us. I don't know which, but it felt like we were moving. And there's lights flying by us. I see a bright light off in the distance, and he's bringing these things to my attention as we're flying. And he has my hand, and I notice that we're coming closer to a portal. The portal opens up, and I see, and as we move through this portal, it's a blue portal, bright blue portal. And as we move through this portal, I see a planet that is turquoise in color. Yeah, turquoise color, beautiful turquoise, and the colors just don't match we don't have the right colors, the colors that match the colors that we can see in the other realms. And as we're moving down toward this planet, and as we move toward the planet, I recognize the planet as a water planet that is a home for me. when we stop and we're floating above the planet, I become acutely aware of the consciousness of the planet. And I begin to merge with the consciousness of the planet. And I feel I get a mother energy from the planet, like Mother Earth, that feminine caretaking energy, sentient energy. And I'm merging with her, and I'm merged with the consciousness of this planet, this body. Yeah, this body of water. And when we dove in, there's a lot beneath the surface of the oceans. And I realized that I have immense love for every being, everything that's on my body as this planet. My goal is to take care of everything, all parts of my planet, and to be supportive of everything that's on the planet. And I have that same reciprocal love from the beings on the planet as well. It's a symbiotic relationship between me as the planet and the beings. And I can move my awareness, just like when I was in the void, I can move my awareness from the smallest sentient being on the planet to the planet, the wholeness of the planet, to the smallest amoeba, a cell, or whatever on the planet. I can move back and forth in that state. And then at some point I come back to the reality of me as Sharon, and we dive down toward the planet and we dive into the water. And I am reunited with a aquatic family that I have there. And I have a mate, I have children, I have my ancestors there. I'm reunited with them. And that's pretty amazing. That part ended up being very emotional for me when I would bring those memories back here, because it was such a huge part of me, because I've always been connected to the dolphins and the whales and those and what we call mermaids and things like that all my life. And so being taken back to that planet and meeting my family there was something. He told me I can go there anytime in my meditations, or when I'm back home, not back home, but when I'm back on the planet of Earth, I can go there anytime. And he told me when I finish my Earth mission type of thing on Earth, then I can take my focus there and be there for as long as I want. And it's because we can move our focus wherever we want in our life, in these dimensional lifetimes, interdimensional lifetimes that we have, life experiences that we have. And this one, he said that I can stay there for as long as I want and be in that form. So at some point, I remembered agreeing with him. I told him, okay, I will agree to go back, but you have to stay. You have to make sure that I know that you're with me throughout my life, right next to me, and are tangible in my life.
So you're kind of bargaining with him a little bit.
I did.
I'll do this for you if you'll do this for me.
I did, yes.
I like it.
Yeah. And then I'm back in my body.
Do you remember what that was like, going back into your body, or you just woke up?
It was a thud. It was a thud. No, I don't remember going back. I just remember being in my body. And I did not remember all of that until a couple years late. Well, I should say it came to me little by little, because I started having out-of-body experiences where I was flying to a sun, trying to get there, and I would come back to my body before I would get there. And I was also having out-of-body experiences where I was in a underwater as a aquatic being, a mer-type being. Those things started happening, but I didn't put them together right away until I was working with Yeshua, till my mother passed, and she brought things into my life from the spirit world that started putting the pieces of the puzzle together as I began working with Yeshua in my meditations. I made a commitment to be in my room every night at 9 p.m. and so he could help me work through a lot of things.
You mentioned and mermaids a couple of times. Do you want to expound on that a little bit?
That's what we looked like. That's what we were like, yeah.
I mean, do you feel like that's kind of your origin or something you're going back to, or?
It's a good question. I feel that we have, our soul has many, many, many other planetary experiences that, thank goodness, I mean, as much as I love Earth, thank goodness Earth isn't the only experience that we have, what I've learned and remembered. And I feel like that one is I guess you could call it parallel in another dimension or reality, another realm or something like that, where I can just move into that planetary experience whenever. It's probably going on now. Wherever I'm sure you've heard the theory or whatever that everything happens at the same time. There really isn't any linear time.
Yeah, my brain hasn't quite wrapped around the fact that in the eternities, there's not really time.
Right.
But does that mean everything's happening at the same time? That doesn't really make sense to me at this point. But
Yeah.
but no time does make sense, and nonlinear does make sense.
Right. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean everything's happening at once.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of see time, I guess you could say, or experiences as cyclical on a circle that way.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Okay. Yeah. So it's happening. Things are happening. Our experiences are happening, and we can jump to any part of the cycle, the circle that we want. Now, some of them we can't change because we've already experienced them, perhaps, but we can still go and experience it, but we can't add to it or subtract to it, maybe, if that makes any sense.
Why do you think most of us can't remember any of this?
Yeah, good question. I believe that I kind of feel that the veil, the program, it's kind of been programmed out of us. And I feel that we are brought into this realm, this dense realm, with that forgetfulness, because it might be too much for us to remember all at once.
I think definitely.
That the journey of remembering is part of the journey.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we couldn't learn if we remembered everything before we got here.
Yeah.
We couldn't have the same kind of experience here.
Right.
You did mention earlier about, I forget how you put it, something about when you died or left your body, that you had done this many times before. Did I get that right?
Yes.
And this is this pre-Earth that we're talking about. This is where this has happened before. In other words, you feel like in these other realms before coming here, there was also life and death and moving on to the next step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to expound on that at all?
Well, yeah, I just felt like I knew that I have had other lives, and I guess you can call it past lives, other realities where I've lived out that experience and died was in a physical body and died in this realm and went on to plan another lifetime, I guess you could say, plan another experience, whether it be on Earth or other planetary bodies. I just knew I had that awareness when that happened.
All right. Tell me what kind of a recovery you had. Your head was run over, so I assume you had a traumatic brain injury. Anything else? No, you didn't.
I didn't even have a concussion. Yeah.
You mentioned you felt like you were healed.
Well, yes.
The embrace of Jesus was healing you and your body both.
Yeah, my hair was falling out.
So tell me you didn't just get up and walk away and go, oh, that was different.
Well, I did get up. I jumped up from the pavement. I jumped up and I was in shock, and I was pacing back and forth. My friends, when the bus finally stopped, they came running back to help me, and the driver called an ambulance. They put me on a spine stabilizer. I was bleeding from the ear, but it wasn't a concussion. They were worried about a concussion. It was just my ear was, the bottom part of my ear was torn off. And so they glued it back together. Luckily, not torn off. It was hanging. They glued it back together and at the hospital. I was in the hospital 5 hours. X-rays showed nothing broken. I didn't have a concussion. I had a lot of road rash, and I have damage to tissue damage, ligament damage, that kind of thing in my back, which I have to maintain. But No. And I had tire tracks across my head, and they teased me about that in the hospital, where my hair was falling out on both sides of my head. But yeah, I have some scars for sure. But no, nothing serious.
You were only in the hospital 5 hours?
Yeah.
My gosh. I don't even know what to do with that. That's insane. Do you have any pictures? Like the tire track on your head? I want to see it.
That was 22 years ago.
It was before smartphones.
It was before smartphones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure I took pictures then, but I was laid up. I was laid up for a couple weeks in bed. You know, the pain set in. I could barely move, but there was no permanent damage. I did have to go through some recovery. I was off work for a couple months. Luckily, my boss at the time was very nice about the whole thing. Yeah, I was home recovering when 9/11 happened.
I wouldn't bring up religion, but you did earlier. You
Sure.
said you were a bad Catholic.
Yeah.
Did this experience change your view of religion or of God, or how did it change you?
No, it didn't change my view of religion. It did bring me closer to Jesus, to Christ, to Yeshua. I learned from him that so much. I mean, he's part of me, and I talk to him. He's always on my mind. I talk to him all the time. He's my guide. He's my, I can say, savior, if you want to use that word. He saved my life, definitely. He, in more ways than one. And he's who I owe everything to. I wouldn't be here without him, even afterwards. And even though my body was healed, I still had a lot of healing to go through with my soul, for sure.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing this. It's an amazing story. It's a really cool story.
Thank you.
What thought would you like to leave with our listeners tonight?
Oh gosh, a lot of things that Yeshua's taught me is that we are really here to help each other, to be kind to each other, to be love, be who we are and what we are, which is love, which is light, and that we're so much more powerful than we think we are. And the trials and tribulations that we go through are to help strengthen us and help us realize who we really are. And we choose them. And I knew that I had made agreements. He helped me realize I had made agreements with the people that I was going through as abuse with as a child. Okay, so he helped me through all that. And if there's anything in anyone's life that seems that they can't get through, know that there's always light on the other side of it. I know, because I went through a very tough time afterwards because of what I was remembering, the experiences I was having afterwards. So it wasn't all hunky-dory afterwards, just because I was met by Yeshua. It took a while for me to remember my true self. And we're moving into a really amazing time. He showed me that. There's a lot I haven't shared with you that he showed me, that I was shown. Okay, is that we are moving into an amazing time. We just have to go through the depths of of the purge, I guess you could call it, of what humanity is going through now, a detox, and we are going through an amazing time.
Somebody listening today does not know if they should believe in an afterlife or not, whether everything just ends when we die or if there's something more. What message of hope do you have for that person?
Yeah, I can't make anyone believe anything. I believe that people have to maybe or need their own experiences in order to have that belief. I know the afterlife is real. I know that we are eternal because of my experience. And both my NDEs have shown me that, have proved that to me. I'm not afraid to die. I don't want to have the pain, of course. This is just a small part of who we are as a soul, and we are eternal. If they want to dive into their soul and maybe start asking those questions and be a seeker in that way, then meditation and what he taught me, meditation and journaling, is the best way to do that. And then people need to find their own answers, for sure, because everything is within us. We can't look outside of ourselves to find answers. It has to be within.
Sharon, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks again for listening and sharing this podcast. Don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button and sign up for our newsletter at roundtripdeath.com. If you want to share your near-death experience, or if you have questions or comments about the show, send an email to eric@roundtripdeath.com. Until then, I wish you everything good that you're looking for in this life and the next.